Okay, so once we've got our beach huts selected, I would say for the process, for the purpose of learning and for the process that we're just having a go, it's probably a good idea at this point to copy and paste this selection. So if we Control C while it's selected and Control V, then what we have on layer 1 is just our selection. So we can see exactly what we've selected. We can see how tidy it is. And if we make edits to this selection, then we know it's safe on a new layer. When in Photoshop, when you copy and paste, it will automatically always paste into a new layer for you. So it's quite handy. So what I've done there, by copying and pasting, I've actually lost my marching ants. Can you see there's no marching ants now? Because I've made my selection and I've done something with it. Control C, Control V, copied and pasted, I've lost my marching ants. Now that's kind of annoying if I was trying to make changes to something that I have selected. In some respects, it doesn't matter because now all that I've got on this layer is my selected area. So all I've got are my selected pixels on this layer. The background is transparent at the moment. The grey and white boxes represent nothing. So I can make changes to this layer. I could copy and paste this layer as many times as I like and have lots of different versions. And that might be what I do for the sake of demo. Just for your information, if you wanted to reselect this area and then work on this layer, then there's a really quick way of reselecting. Once I've made that selection, I've copied and pasted, because this is the only thing on this layer. If I hover my mouse over this little thumbnail and press Control or Command if you're on a Mac, click once, and my selection will be remade. So it's selected only what's on that layer, which is really, really handy. If I were to do the same on this layer, Control click, it selects everything on that layer. So it selects right around the outside because there are pixels filling the entire file here, the entire space available. On this layer, I'm selecting just what's on the layer, which when I turn off the viewer on the beach huts layer and we have the layer 1, which is just the huts on their own. So we might call this huts selection. And I can make a quick selection that way. Okay, so selecting the beach huts separately is useful. Making changes to them either on a new layer or that we've made a selection from that paste and we might make changes to this layer. Either way, whichever you want to do is fine. So I think I'll pause this video and then move on to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to make some changes to just my beach huts. So I'm going to work on just the huts selection layer. So I've got them selected. I can tell that they're selected by the marching ants. Because they are the only thing on this layer, if I make changes without selecting around them, it will also only make changes to the beach huts because there is no other content to make changes to. What we want to do is use this image adjustments menu. So what we're looking to do is adjust the pixels on this layer within this selection. So I'd like for you to have a look through these tools and see what all of them do. You can make more subtle changes using things like brightness and contrast and levels, which you might be familiar with working with on your phone. So you can change the brightness, you can change the contrast, etc, etc. Just make sure you've got preview selected so you can see what's going on. If you like it, say okay. If you don't like it, you say cancel and then you carry on. So we're going image adjustment and then we're looking really at the menus and seeing what's available. So you can make changes to any of these bars and you can play around and see what you like the look of. Okay, so I want you to have a look through that image adjustment menu and have a go. You might do this on multiple layers, so you might think, yeah, that's a nice one, I'll keep that. And then what I might do is I might reselect from this layer. So I'm using my selection, which is just the beach huts, and then I'm going to select the beach huts layer. I'm going to copy, Control C, I'm going to paste. So I have the original unedited version. I've got an edited version here, I've got an unedited version here, so I can make a selection and make some changes, image adjustments, and then I could do something else to this one. for example. Okay, so I want you to have a go and do this on multiple layers if you want to have multiple different outcomes. Okay, so once you've made a few selections to the beach huts, we can turn back on the background layer and see what that looks like. Now, what I might want to do is I might want to make some changes to maybe to the background as well. I can obviously select out areas of the background and make changes to them. So I can do that in a couple of ways. Because I've got my beach huts selected, what I can do is I can go up to my selection and I can select the inverse or the opposite of my selection. Now, selecting the inverse doesn't necessarily look like there's much change there in what's happened, but when I turn off all my viewable layers, what I can see is I've actually got two selections made now. So what it did was it selected the opposite of my beach huts, which is really handy if I wanted, for example, to make a change just to the sky. So if I were to look here, if I'm going to remove from my selection, I'm going to hold Alt down and I'm going to select away this entire sandy area, and what I'm left with is just my sky selected. So obviously I can make changes to the colours by using the adjustments, so on and so forth. So I can make some changes here. I could also, if I wanted to, delete whole sections. Anything I've selected I could just remove if I wanted to, and so on and so forth. So that's a handy thing to be able to do, to make a selection from an inverse of the beach huts. So if I were going to do the beach, for example, underneath, I might use my selection from this layer, Control click. I can select my inverse and then I can remove the sky from that selection by holding Alt down. I'm just selecting over all of those pixels I do not want in this next part, and then I can make changes maybe to the sand. For example, that didn't really seem to make much difference at all, did it? Nonetheless, I can make changes.